Hi folks, hope you're doing well. It's just gone 10 o'clock on the 21st of the 3rd, 2020. I'm doing another video because I just looked on Facebook, and the place I go that once a month, they were trying to do something to help, apparently. Doing this thing called Metre Church, where it's like having a church service but outside but keeping distance from each other, which to me, again, even that was a bit sort of, oh, for goodness sake, why are you pandering to that rubbish? We've been given guidelines. Wash your hands. Don't put your hands to your face. Simple as that. Just don't do that. You're fine if you don't do that. If you wash your hands after you've made contact with someone else, you're fine. Take a bit of hand wash with you. Simple. If you want to be careful, if you want to be, looking at the coronavirus rather than focusing on God, then fine, do that. But now they've even cancelled that. Because the government has said there shouldn't be any sort of gatherings or anything like that. They've gone, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. So that's fine. I've mentioned about this not of this world. The fact that Yeshua said twice in John 17, they are not of this world, but of course our decision-making process is guided by the bloody world, not by God. It's a coronavirus. It's not the bloody Ebola virus. Come on, folks. Stop being led by fear. Don't cancel church. Don't cancel this stuff. For goodness sake, okay. I mean, to me, this is God doing it, saying, okay, I'm going to release this little virus that's going to be a bit harmful to people, but not too bad. Let's see how the church responds to that, shall we? The world, I'm going to put a bit of panic in the world, and let's see what the church does. Do they look to me, or do they look to the world? And what's the church doing? Looking straight to the world. What's the world saying? What are these people that have no clue about what they're doing? This is a brand new thing. What are they suggesting? Instead of saying, well, what's God, the one who sees everything, knows about this virus in ways that we could never understand, even after 100 years of studying it, we humans wouldn't understand it as well as God does. What does he say? Nope. Instead, they look at the fear-led world and say, you guide us. You set the position for us. We are God's people, but actually, not really. We're human. We're part of this world. So we have to abide by the decisions. No, you don't. You do not. You have to obey God. I put a message in to say, we allow the world to guide us. We choose the world to be our guide instead of God. And then we wonder, then we say, why aren't our prayers working? Well, obviously, our prayers aren't going to work because we're doing things the world's way. We're expecting God's ways to come in while we're doing things the world's way. And of course, that's not going to work. If you've got a children's ministry in your church and you're consulting with the police or whoever as to who is safe to work with children, again, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because generally speaking, if somebody is on their register anyway, they can't work with children. So therefore, the police are supervising that anyway. You don't need to ask those questions, really. What you need to be doing is saying to God, who is the person you want in charge? And then putting that person in charge. Because the police can only tell you who has committed an offence. They can't tell you who's going to. But God can. But you're using a worldly system, therefore you're making your children more vulnerable because you're not consulting God. You're saying that we're going to rely upon this world system to make sure that we get safe people for our church. Well, whose church is it? Your church or God's church? If it's God's church, He should be the one deciding, really. You shouldn't be going to the world for anything. Not anything at all. The problem is we've got our voting system from the world. We've got our training of ministers from the world. We've got our safety checks from the world. We've got so many other things from the world. Look at the point of view of spring harvest. That's a world thing. That's to do with pagan festivals. Christmas, pagan festival. Easter, pagan festival. The church gives so much time to all these things. The church is so in bed with the world, it would be what you would consider to be prostitution. If you were looking at it from a strict point of view. We are supposed to be the bride of Christ, and yet we are in bed with the world. We need to repent massively. The way the world is going is based purely on fear. There's no faith involved in their decision making. It's fear based. The government's decisions are completely fear based. They are looking at the fact of the amount of the respirators, or the bigger version of that, whatever, you know what I mean. In Italy, they were running out of them for people on serious situations where they need breathing assistance. Ventilators, that's it. So they're worried that the hospital, they're worried that the hospitals in the UK, for example, would be not able to cope with the numbers if they didn't shut everything down right now. That what would happen is that the numbers of people catching the virus and in serious trouble would go too high for the NHS. It wouldn't be able to cope, and people would have to die because of that. But that's fear related. That's fear led. That's not faith led. That decision making. That's looking at what's happening in Italy and saying, "Oh, we don't want that to happen." So that's overreact massively. To try and make sure that doesn't happen. Now, of course, we don't want people who are 65 and over, or even 60 or over, decline ventilators because there are too many people that need them. So people at 65 or over left to either die or somehow survive. It's all by chance, really. We don't really want our health service to be in that position. I understand that. We don't. Because it would be terribly tough on the families of those people that are being left to die because of that. So I completely understand that position, but that's position, the world-led, fear-based. But we can understand them making that decision. They want to avoid the worst thing happening, so they are seriously throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It is a massive overreaction. But it's what they believe they need to do. I say they don't have any understanding of this virus, so they really don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to affect people. They don't know. There was some theory a few weeks ago that you could catch it, beat it, and catch it again, but they don't know whether that's true. And if you can, they don't know how quickly you could catch it again. So it's a massive problem that they just don't understand right now, and that's the biggest problem. So churches reacting according to the world's reaction is bad news. I mean, you can see this as a test. God is testing his people to see how they react. I mean, that was terrible. You're planning something which is called a 2 metre church, where you stand 2 meters away from each other, Therefore, where's the danger in that? Where's the recklessness in that? There's none at all, is there really? Okay, you're not going to get a ruler out and make sure everyone's exactly 2 meters, but it's the premise of the thing where it's outside, first of all, so far less risk outside than it is indoors. You're making sure that people are a bit of a distance apart, to make that easier, and but then you cancel it and you postpone it. They count it as postponed. Postponed really is cancelled because, put it this way, they say they're postponing it until all of this trouble, the situation has been resolved. Well, when the situation is resolved, they won't need it anymore, will they? So they're postponing it until that situation with the virus has been resolved. Well, by the time once that is actually resolved, you won't need a 2-meter church. You'll just need church. So it's one of those things. It's utterly stupid, and the way people do things, it's up to them. It is. It's up to them. Because they say here, what's it say? This is what they officially say about it. 2-meter church is sadly postponed until restrictions are lifted and life starts to return to normal. Once that happens, you won't do a 2-meter church. You'll just do church. That is what you'll do. So it's like, then just do that. So it's like, it's sad. It's very disappointing to see. It's incredibly disappointing. But as I say, to me, it's a test. It's a test of God's people to see how they are going to react to this fear that is being spread. Are they going to look to the fear, or are they going to look to faith? They've looked to fear. That was their decision. It's like, okay, they made their decision. I probably wouldn't be able to get there anyway because I'm not able to drive my car. But I was interested in going. If I could have got my license back, I would have gone. No doubt about it. Because to me, that if God is planning that you will die through coronavirus, you're going to die through coronavirus. Right? Simple as that. If God is planning that you're going to get coronavirus, but you're going to glorify Him through the way you handle it, then you're going to get coronavirus and you're going to glorify Him for the way you handle it. It's as simple as that. If you believe in God and if you believe that God is in control, then you have to believe that God is in control. Instead of believing it when you want to, when it's safe to do so. Like you go to the organisation that was doing this and they sing all these songs about God is in control and God is leading us and God knows everything and God is going to take care of us, etc., etc., etc. When it really comes to a test, are you going to stand on that? Their response is no. No. The world says we shouldn't, and we're going to take notice of the world. We're not going to do it. It's I'm not surprised. In a way, that's disappointing. We should be surprised at these sort of things. Churches would look to the world and not to God, but it ain't really surprising, is it? People that call themselves as Christians, as followers of the Lord, are going to follow the world and not God. It's commonplace. We all do it at times. We do, and let's be honest, folks, we all do that at times, don't we? When God is saying go there, we say no, we'd rather go there. Thank you very much. Right? We all do that at times. problem is, this is at a time where the world is looking at us. This is at a time where the world is saying, well, what are you going to do? You're God's people. What are you going to do? Every Sunday, you meet inside, congregated closely together. What are you going to do? What does the church say? Any church that says we're not going to meet, you have to say, you should really close your doors permanently now. You shouldn't open them up again. Because when you were tested, you failed. So would you be missed? Because there's a few more tests to come, we know that you're likely to fail. Because you've already been tested and failed. So unless you're going to really learn from it, which is very unlikely, because if we've been going through this situation for the past 20 years, and we have, it's like even at this thing, we've had people praying recently and saying recently that, we're going to have some form of revival soon and God's going to start doing things, and the people that are in the way, God's going to get out of the way. Now, if you're witness to all of that and you believe any of it at all, why would you then look to the world? Now, to me, that is mind-blowing. I don't get it. I really don't get it. That's like the Brett says here. I think we could have achieved the God-given picture of safe and distance worship. What? God didn't give a picture of safe distance worship? That's the world saying that. That was the blinking Prime Minister saying, keep, with a certain distance away from each other. I'm not even sure whether it was a metre or 2 metres. I don't know. No idea. We're supposed to keep a distance away from each other according to the government, because that's where that came from, not God. Don't try and blame God for that. Oh dear, as I say. Oh dear. Not of this world, eh? Yes, indeed. That's the point. It's crazy. Crazy business. We're supposed to be not of this world, and yet, we constantly act very much as if we are of it. As soon as there's a test, we fail miserably, and we wonder why God isn't actually with us. We wonder why God doesn't move when we ask Him to. And when God asks us to do something, what do? What do? We postpone it until things are better. So maybe when we pray to God, God's going to say, I was going to answer, but I'm just going to postpone it until things are better. It's insane. Now, I went to a house group, and the reason why I left the house group, I think I've said a bit about it, is that the people who led the house group were told by God to lead the house group in a certain way. But then when they had people coming to the house group that either weren't Christian or, one of them wasn't baptized, they said to God, rather than lose these people, which might happen if we do things your way, we're going to do things this way instead. So, excuse me. God says to you, He wants you to lead your worship in a certain way, which means He's with you in this meeting that you're going to do. He's asked you to do it in a certain way, which means He's with you. If you do it His way, He's going to be with you, and He's going to make sure that that meeting is blessed. And you've said no. I mean, again, that's just, I don't understand how people can do that. I really don't. I mean, if you truly believe that God has said to you, do things in a certain way. I mean, this is what they said. It's not what I said. I wasn't in the meeting where God said do things a certain way, but they have said this in the group. that God told them to do things a certain way, and they decided to tell God no. They're going to do things the way they're doing it. But so, how can you do that? You claim to be a Christian, and they were the people at the the last meeting, at the filling station, and they were talking about the thing about, I mentioned it, the unity of marriage. That thing, the thing that I said didn't make any sense. Can't remember what it was. Lamb, was it? Lamb? Life after marriage. There you go. Life after marriage. Yeah, they were there talking about that and trying to promote that. Now, again, if they're involved, I can't see God blessing it, because God's already told them to do things a certain way, and they said no. So how on earth is God going to trust them to be involved in this? How is God going to bless it? Ugh. But anyway, there you go. And maybe do that over the next few weeks you've got. You know, when God challenges you, respond. Respond in the right way. Yeah. Glorify God in your response. I'm not saying be reckless or be stupid. Don't do that. But if God says do something, do it. Yeah, go to God. Don't go. And don't be saying that God gave a picture of safe and distance worship, because He wouldn't do that. But then, that's the point. I read again what this bloke said, because I didn't read all of it, which was a bit silly. Yeah, he says, even though we woke to see this video of believers actually doing what we had saw in the spirit this week, right? Because there was a church that did that yesterday. He then said, last night's government announcement makes it impossible for us to go ahead in our heart. 1 second. Let's go ahead. Then it says in our heart. I think we could have achieved the God-given picture of safe and distance worship, but the risk to the reputation of His church is too high at this moment in time. Excuse me? Wow. That isn't just a case of looking to the world and saying we're going to do the things the world's way. That's also a case, as I say, of attributing a picture to God that wasn't God-given. It was, again, what the government had been talking about, keeping a safe distance, a metre or 2 metres, is what they were saying. So that's where the 2 metre church come from. That's where that distance come from, the government, not from any spiritual vision. So that would be a lie if that's what they're claiming. But then to say that actually doing this, having this meeting of God's people coming together in worship in spite of this thing, so basically coming against this virus, would be a risk to the reputation of His church. And what about the reputation to His church that God doesn't exist? Don't you think that's a bigger risk to His reputation? The fact that God doesn't exist, because you go to church, what do you see? Happy, clappy morons that don't do anything. When people pray, nothing happens. You don't see anyone being healed. You don't see anything really happening. And when you pray to God, what do you get? Nothing. Why do you get nothing? Because His people are basically saying, well, yeah, Christianity is going to be safe. It's going to be protective of all. We've got to look at the world system. We've got to do things the world's way. We've got to be in bed with the world. Otherwise, the world won't allow us to do church. That really is devaluing and depowering God, isn't it? Massively. And when you devalue and depower God, don't expect people to think that God exists. I mean, I didn't read the comments here earlier. Had I read them, my response would have been a lot worse. I find it astronomical. I mean, you know that the comment that I made with that, if I can find it, I can't find it now. I can't even see it anymore. That's weird. No, I made a comment, but I can't see it there. You've got to go to a certain page to see it. So I can't see it. I did write a message, but no, it seems to have gone. So there you go. Yeah. But yeah, it's very annoying. But what I'm going to do is I'll copy this video to them as well under that article. I think it's appropriate to copy this video to it. So yeah, as I say, when you look at those comments that the person made, I think that is astounding that someone would make such comments. I really do. And if that had been made from someone pretending to be a Christian, I'd say, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, because how can this be made by someone who's got any faith in God or knowledge of God? Saying that meeting could risk the reputation of his church, and the risk would be too high at this moment in time. For goodness sake. So basically what they're saying is, in this, they're saying that churches shouldn't meet all the while this virus is growing in the country that it's growing in. So if you're in Spain, your churches shouldn't meet. If you're in Italy, your churches shouldn't meet. If you're in America and the virus is growing, churches shouldn't meet. Because if churches are meeting, then the risk to the reputation of his church is too high for your meeting. Even if your meeting is outside at a safe distance, 2-meter church, where people are standing at a safe distance from each other. He's saying it's too risky, it's too dangerous. It's risking the reputation of his church. I mean, for goodness sake, that's what I can't get. How can it be risking the reputation of his church? I mean, of all the things that a church has done and has not done, it's like they heard the other day about we should be working with other churches, like the Catholic Church. I mean, what the Catholic Church has been doing about hiding abuse cases for years, what is that doing to the reputation of God's church? And yet this meeting at a time because the government says keep a safe distance because we don't want the NHS to be overwhelmed. That's what it's about. It's fear-led, and you're saying, yeah, we just bow down to that. You've been tested, and you failed. That was my dog snapping at another dog, but it could have been snapping at that believer, because that believer, whoever that was, failed miserably. That was not good, nor was it wise. But God bless you, whoever you are. I don't know who you are, but I just pray that God will bless you and help you to realize the error of your way. So I can tell you now, bad news. That was bad. As I was saying now, that the 2-meter church will start again as soon as they're allowed to, etc., etc. Well, why would it be needed? I mean, that is what I don't understand. Why would you need a 2-meter church at any other time? If there's no virus, you wouldn't need a 2-meter church, would you? Because you'd be meeting close together and you'd be meeting indoors as you normally would. So therefore, there wouldn't be a 2-meter church. There would be no need for it. The whole need for a 2-meter church is about the virus. So it's like, the whole idea of it is just ridiculous. And cancelling it is ridiculous. I mean, having it, I can understand having a meeting outside. I can understand that. The whole idea of a 2-meter church doesn't make sense. Because if you're not going to touch people's hands and stuff like that, And if people aren't going to be sneezing all over you, etc., then anyone who's got the virus, who knows has got the virus, who's actually having the symptoms of the virus, stay away. That's wise. That's fair. Don't go spreading that to other people. That's good. But even if someone has only just got the virus and is not showing signs, they're not likely to spread it to other people unless they're rubbing their mouth and their nose and then rubbing their hands into other people's faces, which generally speaking, I've never seen that happen in a church. So I think it would have been perfectly safe just to have a normal meeting outside. You're standing at a normal distance from each other. Would have been fine. I mean, if you go into a shop, like a supermarket, you're standing in a queue, you're standing closer to people in a queue than you would be to there. And you would hope it'd be a case that any church meeting, anyone who's got the virus would not attend. Even though some idiots would, some people would think, if I attend, maybe people can pray for me. For God's sake, send a text message, they can pray for you anyway. Right? You don't need to attend. Simple as that. If you're 70 or 80, then get people to come and pray for you in your home. So if you're of the type where you could have serious repercussions from getting the virus, get people to come and pray for you in your home. You do not need to come to church. If you're going to come to a church, in a church where prayer isn't working anyway, what's the point in you coming? All you're going to do is spread it to other people. Right? If you've got prayer warriors and prayer leaders who are active and who are functional and who God works through, they can pray for you in your home. You do not need to go to church for that. So, that will do. Take notice and be guided by God. Don't be guided by the world. As I said, I did a video called Not of This World. I have to copy that to them. Actually, I think I did already. Okay, well, you take care, folks. God bless. And just do what you can. And say, if there's a possibility of a church opening, go to it. Go. Don't be running in fear over how other people are going to be seeing you, or whether there's a possibility of people looking badly on the church. For goodness sake, people don't even notice the church. Right? If people start to notice the church, then that's a good thing. Even if it's for a bad reason, any attention is better than no attention at all. We can turn bad attention to good attention just through people being, obeying God and God working in His people. As I say, at a time when the world is in fear, we should be standing in faith. That's when people need to see faith and to see faith working, not fear. Well, you take care. I'll end this video now. It's 33 minutes in, so I think that's plenty. That's rant of enough. That's enough of a rant, should I say. So there you go. I've got to let the puppies out. They've been fed and they're in there, so I'll let them out to do their business, and I will speak to you later. You take care. Have a fantastic rest of the weekend, and have a good week this week. And as I say, be blessed and take every opportunity you can. God bless.